Danny Candelaria. ¿Cómo estás, Danny? Tú eres en México ciudad ahora mismo, no, o sí.
Sí,
Sí.
sí,
Sí.
y
Sí.
quiero decir hola Tamirna por enseñarme español.
Oh, muy bien. Muy
Sí,
bien, Danny.
yes. Hi.
Hola, ¿cómo
I think
estás?
that's probably in the top 10 most awkward intros we've had.
Está bien.
Sí. Are we going to do the whole show in Spanish? We can.
Yo quiero que toda no sé, la palabra por episodio en español es
Es
muy bien.
episodio. Es episodio.
No, ese episodio es como
Sí.
día a día, mi otra favorita, Cognate, día a día. Tú tienes día a día, Dani. Yo siempre
Sí. It's
tengo día.
it's diarrhea. You gotta roll the R.
Diarrea,
Yeah.
diarrea. Es mi cosa favorito.
And you, where are you
Diarrea.
at, Diane?
Soy en Australia.
Australia?
Sí,
No, I'm
Australia.
not sure.
Bueno,
I'm not sure how to say that in
no
Spanish.
sé la palabra por Australia. Un país en el hemisferio del sur. At this point, I'm just making things up.
Sur is a
It's
word.
south. It
Yeah.
is south, yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know about hemisphere.
Do you know how to say north?
El norte,
Do you know how to say east?
este.
Good job. Is there another word for east?
Um, well, oriental.
Good job. Oriente. What about
Ah,
west?
oeste,
Good job. Or?
oeste.
I
I don't
just learned
know.
this today. That's why.
What is it? What does it tell me? Dígame, loco.
Poniente.
Poniente. What does that mean?
Yeah. West.
Yeah, but does it mean anything other than, you know,
I think it
west?
means the opposite of of east. No, I have no idea. I have no idea. All I know is that I am staying in a new
East.
neighborhood, and this new neighborhood is like the
You know,
east version and the
poniente.
west version. And I was like,
Oh,
why are there two different names for like the different sides of the neighborhood? East and west. That's what they mean.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Oriente for the East comes from the Latin, and it would be like in the 'cause that was the other name for the East, and that's where light came from. Light comes from the East, as in not only the
Mm,
sunrise but knowledge.
I see.
Yeah.
See, and I thought I was like in like I don't know, like a Chinatown or something. Because I
Wow.
didn't understand like why what Oriente meant. So
And
I
you're
was like,
like,
oh
maybe. It's funny. I heard
yeah.
someone use the term Oriental recently to refer to Asian Americans, and I was like, you're not really supposed to do that anymore.
A little outdated. A
Right, which you
little
know is bad when it
outdated.
comes from me, but like that's part of my job is to tell other people things that I have recently learned. Let me pass that on.
Yeah.
So, tell
So
me about
but
the
they
new
do
neighborhood.
that
What's
kind
going
of
on?
stuff like in Spanish. Like there are words where I'm like, is that okay to say? And they're like, yeah, no, it's totally fine. Like that's just how
And you're
Spanish
like,
is. Not racist at
you're
all.
like, doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel
Yeah.
right.
I'm like, I don't know. Can I say that?
Not
Okay.
feeling awesome, but yeah. Am
Yeah.
I? Can you hear me? Like, am I loud enough? Beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop. I just want to make sure you don't have to do anything to this later. So, do we have any
Yeah.
like Hank the Tank updates? I was thinking about Hank the Tank earlier. You know, the
I've
giant
not
bear.
heard anything of Hank the Tank in quite the time.
I haven't heard anything about anything. You know why? Because I'm not doing anything that would I would hear anything. Like I'm not watching news. I can't even figure out how to turn the TV on. So there's that. Like I spent a lot of time today figuring out how to do that, and then I was like, I could just watch stuff on YouTube, and then I was like, eh. By that point, I
What
was
it
too tired. Eh.
I I wish that I could say like that's probably because you're in Australia, but like in the States, I always have trouble turning on TVs.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where I am. I have trouble turning it. There are always too many remotes. There are too many remotes, and everyone buys like a universal remote, and nobody knows how to use it.
No one.
Nobody.
Unless it's the one that has like the giant buttons for the old people.
Right. But even then, nobody programs it to work like every single remote. Like that's the whole point of a universal remote. Is like everything's supposed to work on the one remote with the and if you're lucky enough to have one with the giant buttons, nobody ever does it. You still have like 10 remotes and then you just have one with a giant button. So what else is
Right.
going on? Danny, how's the new neighborhood? Tell me. Look, can you tell? I'm jet lagged. That's why I'm in bed.
You look relaxed. You look very
I,
relaxed.
I
But you
feel pretty
also look like
relaxed.
were you the flight attendant on your flight? Because
I
that
was. Do you see
blouse.
this? I was like, I didn't know that Southwest Airlines went all the way to Australia.
It
Good for
looks
them.
great though. You're
It could
like
be like a, it could be like a,
redefining.
it could be like a Virgin. It could be all kinds of things.
You are redefining what it is.
Lay in bed
You're
chic.
redefining the fashion of the
The podcast arena.
yeah, there you
I'm just throwing words out. We don't know what we're doing, do we?
go. Not at all.
We don't have
Well,
any clue.
when do we?
Well, sometimes we're slightly more organized than others. I'd say this is on the low end of organization. I'm still impressed though that you're in a studio. So like to me that counts as like top end. This is like
I
some
am in a
top
studio.
tier. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is some top tier podcasting.
Top
By the
tier.
way, if anyone, I think I have to check and see if it's out. I don't want to give it away. I think it's out already. I don't know. I'm just going to say there's a very fun SVU podcast that I may or may not have been a special secret guest on, a live taping of in the recent to near future slash past.
What?
Yeah, and it's worth tuning in. I don't even know if it's out. Like, I hope I'm not giving anything away. Am I ruining things? I might
I
be, and
hope not.
I'm not even sure if I am. But
Well, if
it
it is,
was
I'll put it in the show links.
okay. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was absolutely. Although I have to tell you, probably so I have this new book agent who's awesome, right? Like he's amazing. And I met
Mhm.
him because his I happened to be at this like book thing and he was on this panel and when it was over, it was like all these people that were just up and like kissing his ass. Like it was one of those things. I was just like, poor guy. And there was this beautiful woman standing off to the side who was just kind of looking in his direction, but wasn't one of these people that was like clamoring to like kiss the butt of everyone on this panel. And so I was just like me, I always see someone alone. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And she was gorgeous and interesting. So anyway, I went up and talked to her. I was like, hey, how's it going? She's like, oh, hi. And I'm like, obviously you're not here to kiss people on the panel's ass. She's like, no, I'm not. I don't like that seems to be what everyone else is up to. And she's like, I'm waiting for my boyfriend. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she's like, can I tell you something? She's like, I had the craziest day. I'm like, I'm like, when a stranger tells you this, I'm like, I need to know. Like, what was this day? So she was like, I was called into HR. And I'm like, uh huh. She's like, I was called into HR. And nothing good happens when you're called into HR, ever, right?
Never.
No.
Never.
Wrong. She's like, I thought something. She's like, I didn't know what I'd done. I thought something. She's like, instead, they thanked me for all of my hard work. They told me how much they loved me. They gave me like a better position and a raise. I'm like, what? I was like,
Wow.
banner day.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like the coolest,
Where
like the
does she
cool.
work? I want a job there.
I would say, but that would give it, it's a very fancy jewelry company.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was like, that's even more incredible because I know people that work at jewelry companies and it never goes well. So, and then after, so we were talking and she was awesome. She was a big fan of like SVU. We were just having such a giggle. She was lovely. So, anywho, anyway, and when everyone was done kissing everyone's ass, the agent came over. That was her boyfriend, and now they're engaged, which is super cool. So she's a
Oh
huge
wow.
fan of this podcast, right? So I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I am so excited about this because I knew that if I did this guest thing, if I happened to be in New York at the time when this was happening, I'm like, there's no way I'm not bringing her because she's such a big fan of it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
book agent and I worked secretly. Like, so it was this whole secret thing, Danny. We worked secretly to get her there on a Friday night, without telling her what she was doing and all this stuff. It backfired in of such epic proportions, Danny.
What
It
happened?
was the worst. First of all, she's amazing, and like could be like the worst thing I ever imagined. So she gets there. Apparently, she realized what she was so excited, right? And she had like a special thing where she was like supposed to sit up front and in this big theater, and then like afterwards, she was going to come meet me backstage and like meet everybody. And anyway, so apparently, so I'm thinking she's there the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So I even like when I made it out onto stage, I'm like giving a shout out to her and it was just like crickets. And I'm like, what's happening? I find out later she got there. So she had the misfortune of being black at a very white event.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it's
Uh-oh.
so much worse than you could possibly imagine. Basically, she was like white mean girled out of there, went home in tears, right?
Oh.
I know. Oh, Danny, it could not have been any worse. By the way, absolutely no fault of anyone at the podcast. It just happened. It just, white people are awful sometimes.
What
And
happened? Like, it was just like the other audience members or what?
yeah, there was just this like whole group of like mean blonde girls, which I'm like, I know this group of mean blonde. I don't know this particular group of mean blonde girls. I just know every group of mean blonde girls, right? That ever
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah.
I think we've all had terrible interactions with groups of mean blonde girls.
Oh yeah.
And so after like this long week at work, and so her better half and I are so excited about this, right? Like we're so excited because this is like the ultimate. She's gonna have so much fun, and instead she ended like she never even made it in. She was like at home in tears before it even started. I was like, that's the
Oh,
worst.
poor thing.
I know, I know.
Do you want to give her a shout out?
Yeah, I don't want to say her name, call her out, but like you're the
Okay.
coolest, and I'm so sorry. I am genuinely so sorry. I cannot believe something that was intended to be so much fun and so awesome for you ended up being so bad. I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry you got mean girled by a bunch of blonde bitches because they're horrible. Like groups, white people just don't know how bad they are so often. Really. And it's so weird being one, and it's also weird being on the outside of them.
Right.
Did I ever tell you, Danny, like what happened?
No, what happened?
So a few years ago, I wanted, obviously, I've been Karened and I've been treated like a person of color by law enforcement. Or like I've had lots of experiences that have given me new insight, but I really
Hmm.
wanted to know. So I spent a lot of time like praying about like, let me know what it feels like for other people because you just can't ever really know. And I'll never know, but I wanted
Right.
some insight.
Yeah.
And there was this day I was in Manhattan and I walked into this little bodega
Hmm.
and these two black teenagers walked in behind me and instantaneously it was like I had spidey senses. I could feel the bodega owner. I could feel all of his muscles tense up like these microaggressions. I
Oh
could
wow.
see it in his eye. Like all of a sudden the world opened up, Danny, and I could see it and I could feel it and I could sense it and it's never gone away. And it is the wildest thing in the world. And so now I see it and I can't ever undo being it, right? And I'll never know what it's like to be on the receiving end,
Hmm.
but even just to like witness it is nuts. It is
Yeah.
nuts. It has changed my
Right.
perspective on almost everything. And
Oh yeah.
when you start seeing it, it's like I can't I don't want it. First of all, I don't want to unsee it
Hmm.
because that would just be like willful ignorance. But now that I see it, it is so pervasive. It is so everywhere. It is so nasty. It
Right.
is such like, eh, it has this undertone, undercurrent to everything everyone does of like,
Yeah.
impending violence and impending, like, how hard is it to exist in a world like that
Right.
where everything you do makes you everything these other people are makes you hesitate.
Yeah.
Jacked up, man.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Not even the actual like acts of discrimination. It's just like the overall like cloud of racism always hanging over your head everywhere you go and everything you do.
Yeah, like that's like, and again, I'll never experience it, but now that I can see it and I can see that it's just a constant, how grinding that must be. How must it like wear people down? How horrific. Just
Right.
how horrific. What
Yeah.
a terrible way to live.
Yeah.
So,
It's awful.
question, it is awful. Does it feel any different being, and I know you're a gringo there, do you feel superior? Just kidding. I'm sorry, I couldn't even keep that joke going. I'm sorry. I couldn't even keep that
You know
going.
what? No, it's like that's something that happens. I was just told a story by someone that they were at a taco shop and a guy there was like just, being a major like cutting people in line and just being like a major
White
douchebag
guy.
on a number
Yeah.
of levels.
Right.
And then when he got called out for it, he was like, "I came to Mexico so I could do whatever I want."
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm bet like literally saying that he's better than other people like than Mexicans, which is insane. But like so
Wait, this is
sometimes
something this other human said out loud.
yes,
Like, you
and
shouldn't even think that stuff, let alone say it
yeah.
out loud.
Yeah, and I guess he was drunk, but even then, it's still like
That
okay.
doesn't make it any
Sometimes
better.
it just makes it probably more like that's actually what
True.
he thinks.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what he thinks.
yeah.
I came to
So
Mexico because I want to do whatever I want to anyone.
yeah, it's so awful. Like people actually think like that,
Yeah, but everybody thinks like that. Can I tell you the secret of like white people? Why they're
What?
so afraid of becoming the minority? It's sheer terror. And it's because they're afraid they're gonna get treated like they treated everyone else. It's
Yeah,
true.
it's
It's
true.
true.
Yeah.
That's what they're afraid of because they've been horrible.
Can I tell you
Horrible.
a secret from
Yes.
POC?
Yes.
We are gonna treat you guys like that.
Oh, come on.
No,
You
I'm
know what
just
I
kidding.
always tell? I always tell the other white people, I'm like, they're going to behave better than we did. I'm like, you should know that. But you know what? If you did treat us like everyone else, like we treated, like, it would be fair. It would be fair.
No,
I wouldn't
no.
even be upset with it. I'd be like, yeah,
Well,
that's right.
well, you know what? If that did come to happen,
Yeah.
I would be the
A white
person
ally? Would you be
with
my
the
non-white ally? Like,
I
would
would
you
have
come with me to do
I
things?
would have the underground white lady railroad just
That's
for
so
you.
sweet. Just from, oh my gosh, how cool. Where would I, but like, where would you take me? Where would I go where I'd be safe?
Mexico. You can do anything you want. No, I'm just kidding.
Apparently so. Apparently that's why you go to Mexico, so you can freak out and you can demean people in a taco restaurant. Like, wow. What is
No,
wrong with everyone? Every day, every day. Seriously, Danny, it's like that other day I was flying. I made like a little YouTube video because like or for Instagram. I could not believe it. There were these people in the first class line that were talking about like, ugh, I can't believe they let military people go on for. I mean, like it was amazing, and like people with children and babies. Like, what's so special about them? We paid for. I was like, holy, is this? Am I witnessing this right now? And they were both like, like laughing with each other about how horrible it is for people with babies and military to get on first. So it's like, damn, damn. Wow. Keep that to yourselves. Don't think
you
it in the
know,
first place or keep it to yourself.
and you know what I don't understand is like
Everything.
aside from everything, almost everything in the world,
Okay.
I don't understand why do you want to get onto the airplane first in the first place? Like,
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
the
don't
goal be
know.
like less time sitting in the seat,
It's
like with a
true.
kid
Like,
kicking your seat?
unless you have like a plan, like sometimes I will say this, sometimes when you're in first class and you have like a long flight ahead of you, but it's not like enough for a full night's sleep, but it's a red eye. You want to get in that seat because it's a comfortable seat, right? You're not sitting in the back of the bus. You want to get in the seat pretty quickly so that you can go to sleep pretty quickly and get as much sleep as possible, right? Which you're not going to be able to do if you're sitting in economy. That's not happening for you,
Right.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
not happening for you. So you don't want that. So
I
that's like
guess
the
that's the people I'm talking about. The ones that are sitting economy, but also rushing to get on
yeah,
the
that
plane.
makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. That makes no
Yeah.
sense. And I'm talking about a very limited set of circumstances where being on early makes sense. Right? Like
Right.
when Marcus and I were married, the flight from New York to Dublin, which we did all the time, it was the worst amount of time ever. It was always a red eye, but it's the closest to America, right? So it's only like 5 hours. So
Oh.
it's so
From where to
yeah,
where?
from New York to Dublin.
Oh,
And we
okay.
did this
Right.
constantly, right? So it's a red
Yeah.
eye. So you're leaving New York at night and you're getting to Dublin in the morning, but it's not enough time. You're only getting like half a night's sleep,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like a 10-hour flight to somewhere deep in Europe where you could actually
Yeah.
get a good night's sleep. No, you like maximum you're getting like 4 hours. So then with the extra time from boarding, you want to get on the plane as early as possible. So maybe you get 5 hours sleep.
Right.
But that's a
Yeah.
very limited circumstance, and you have to be sitting first class. Anything other than that, there's no point being on that damn plane.
Yeah. No, I feel like planes these days are like you have no room. And usually I fly Frontier because I'm really cheap. And it's
And
funny
you're
because every
and
single
you're in
time
and you're in
there's like
Colorado. That's why.
yeah, and yeah, it's like
Yeah.
super cheap from Denver. But but yeah, like every single time I buy a ticket from them, it's set like it's like, do you want to pay extra to board the plane early? And I'm like, no, thank you.
Why?
Why would like
Why?
if I'm gonna board the plane early, you're gonna pay me extra because I do not want to be on that plane.
You're like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to do it. I don't want
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually
Dang.
funny because I
Yeah.
flew from New York City to Colorado once on Frontier, and the seats are so tiny. And then it was a red eye as well.
And
And you know when you're
you've
flying
got like narrow
west,
hips and like a small butt, you know?
I do.
Yeah, you don't have like lady hips, you know? Like it's
Thanks for reminding me, Diane.
that you don't have lady hips. Do you want lady hips? You don't want lady hips.
I
I
want some more
trust me.
junk in the trunk.
Okay, you can have
No,
like a
I'm just
nice
kidding.
bubble butt, but you don't need to have lady hips. Okay, so anyways, you're flying west.
Yeah, so we're flying west, and it's like the flight's supposed to leave at midnight. It's delayed, so it doesn't leave until like 1:30 in the morning. And I remember
Uh,
like they turn the lights off as if anyone is gonna sleep. I remember there's turbulence, there's crying babies. I'm like looking forward through the like at all the different people, and
yeah.
literally every single person, I'm not kidding, like every single person I looked at was like, oh,
Oh
and they'd be
no!
like, and you just
Oh
go,
no!
and I was like, oh man, I was like, I need to stop playing Frontier. This is awful.
Do you know what I think is crazy? Is like sometimes, like during the holidays, like you'll see people in like the first class lounge, like the international first class lounge, like are getting ready for fist fights. Like they're at fisticuffs level rage for whatever reason. And I'm like, what is happening in economy? If this is what's happening here, like what is happening back there? Are these like small scale warfare? Are these like tactical nukes in back? Like what's happening?
Right,
And I was
right.
like, what's going on with these people? I'm like, get over it. Like, calm down. It's the holidays, man.
I feel
Be
like
of good
airplanes
cheer.
airplanes are like cities where like the further you get from the city center, like the further you get from the front of the plane, just like the
Yeah.
crazier and more dangerous it gets. Like
Oh my gosh. So this insane person once told me that he was in the back of the plane and he needed to go to the bathroom and he was like on a window seat and they wouldn't let him up to go to the bathroom. So he peed in a bag and then handed it to the flight attendant. And he said
what?
this, yeah, he said this like this was something to be proud of. And I'm like, this is nothing to be proud of. Like, I don't like you anymore. Like, this is
He,
awful.
he didn't have. See, this is why I always fly with a catheter in place, just in case. Brought to you by Frontier.
That's right, catheters brought to you by Frontier. But like, how gross! And like, he thought it was like the best. This is what the. Do you ever this ever happen? Do people tell you things you're like, I don't like you anymore because she told me that? Like one of
Yeah,
my,
and usually it's guys.
it's always guys, and
It's
it's
always
like
guys.
one of this person I knew, her husband. This was like 10 years ago. I can't even remember what we're doing. We're at some sort of party or we are having a party, and he's just like he starts proceeds to tell us how he peed on a homeless guy once, and I was like, wow, wow,
You know what's funny?
yeah.
Disrespecting poor people's lives.
Yeah. And he was
You're like,
Canadian too, which seemed somehow incongruous. Yeah. I was like,
wow.
what? And I was like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I think he finally, like, he looked around and everyone was like, and like, yeah. And then he was like, what? And I'm like, that's the meanest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, that is the meanest. I'm like, I don't like you.
Yeah, no. Okay. I have a story about a family friend who is a police officer.
Oh, that, okay.
So
This is going to be, yeah, something about this is going to be, yeah.
already strike one.
Strike one,
Two, and maybe there's like, okay, if there's a psychologist in the audience, let us know if this is
please.
normal to some degree. But he had witnessed, I guess he had to show up to a crime scene where
Yeah.
very small, like toddler, had fallen into a bucket of water and drowned to death.
That's horrible,
It's like
Danny.
one of the worst things I've ever heard. But the way that he told the story was like it was like if it was like some prank had happened. Like,
Okay, by the
like, can you
way,
believe this stupid kid fell in a you know? And I'm like, you're talking about a child
a
that just died,
human.
and you're laughing. Like,
Okay,
that's
first of all, he shouldn't be telling the story in the first place, is what I think. Like, that's somebody's private misery. Don't share that private misery
yeah,
unless you have a damn good reason to. Number two, yeah, what's funny about that?
right. Like literally nothing. But ever since that day, I'm just like, yeah, I think there's something seriously wrong with this
Wrong with
guy's
him.
head.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's
a lot,
not.
Danny.
Yeah.
No.
You know, like I don't understand. But you know what? Again, maybe there's some I've heard like when you're about to die, sometimes people laugh because they're so scared. Like fear, like it's like cross signals or something like
Well,
that.
let's not think about that. But yeah, it's like there's a thing called gallows humor, but usually you keep it into the group of people. So like it would only be people that have to deal with that all day, every day, that keep the
Right.
gallows humor amongst themselves because they won't psychologically survive otherwise, right? Like they'd have psychotic breaks. So that's like a real thing, and that's like a real release mechanism for people in very difficult professions, whether it's battlefield surgeons or yeah, people, homicide
Right.
detectives, all that kind of stuff. However, it stays within the group of people because they're all ones that can understand that you don't really mean it. You just have to have like a release valve, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
just don't share it with like friends of the family's kids. Like, how old were you when this happened?
I was an adult,
Were
but
you?
we didn't know the people,
Oh,
thankfully. Yeah. No, we
that's
didn't
even
know the
worse.
people.
This person's just saying it out loud to like a group of strangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
He was just visiting us and he's like, "Oh, guess what happened today at my job?" And
Oh, so he volunteered it as well.
yeah.
Yeah, he's not okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to tell you right now, he's not okay. This guy's not okay.
I'm not a psychologist,
Yeah,
but yeah, there's
but I'm going to tell you,
something going on
if you
there.
take expert out of the equation, I'm pretty much an expert on people. So, like,
If you add armchair into the phrase,
right,
I'm a psychologist.
I'm definitely an expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal. Also, a lot of people suck, Danny.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel
I
like we're
mean,
on like a negative bench. Should we talk about like sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns?
that would be great. Yeah, I
Okay,
really need some uplifting news right now, Diane.
okay. I mean, I don't have any uplifting news. I'm just saying we could make some up.
Well, I think
Like how
I
I've
was going to
given up
say
and I'm
you're
just
not
like
in
laying on
Florida
my back.
anymore. That's kind of
Oh,
uplifting.
it is, but I always worry. Hello. So Danny and I were talking, then we weren't talking, then we're talking, and we had some technical difficulties. So we're doing what we can from opposite sides of the planet. Needless to say, we've wasted all of our studio time doing other things. So Danny and I have got to bid you all farewell and adieu today, and we apologize, but we love you, and we're so glad you were with us for this nice low energy Joe Biden ride. Is that what he calls Joe Biden?
Sleepy Joe.
That's right. That's us, Sleepy Joe 1 and 2. Sleepy Joe in Mexico.
Sleepy Joe in Mexico.
I still can't believe that dude, like, in the taco place. Like, wow. Wow. Okay. All right. We got to go. So goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. What about you, Danny? Got anything to say?
Toodles!
Bye.